And again, keep in mind that all of these things need to happen now once a year. So defining these standards that we're going through and we're talking about is an important step in the process, right? So here's some examples. So that early test group, those early preview builds, IT admins, they can learn those new feature sets, determine applicability, update the ADMX files for group policy, and set the settings are applicable. Because you have to think in terms of, as Windows 10 comes out, new features, security features, things like that are going to be added into the operating system. You not only have to understand what those features are, but you have to control them in your organization if you're a traditional on-prem organization. I'll talk a little bit about a cloud-only organization, and we have a fair amount of experience with this because we're moving ourselves to a cloud-only organization and getting rid of all of our on-prem. And we're about 80% of the way through it. So getting to the state is achievable, and we'll cover some of that a little bit later. For a pilot group 1, you want to kind of look at your application testers and maybe some friendly folks in IT. For pilot group 2, and then you get that application sign-off prior to production rollout, right? I cannot iterate enough that once your applications are tested and managed well, the rollout will go much more smoothly. If you were to just deploy feature updates on top of Windows, you'll probably have a high success rate that Windows will work, but then you have all the applications underneath that you'll have to manage or worry about if they're not necessarily done in a modern approach, if they're more of a traditional installation. And so how do you handle and manage those applications is another piece we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. That really ties into the OMS conversation. So to get into the production group 1 and 2, so the most adaptable users to the least adaptable users. Now that's one approach to it, right? So this is something that, again, is an ongoing operationalizing task that you have to make in your environment that may not exist today. So a lot of this might happen during projects in the past that needs to happen more frequently. So along the same timelines, there's another way that you can kind of look at it, right? If you think about it in terms of self-service and maybe not breaking the production group up as finely as we did in the last example. So you've gone through, you've updated all the ancillary components, you've got application sign-off, the IT-friendly folks are all on board. Maybe now you just push it to the production group of users. And so in this approach, it's much more like our phones. And so if you think about your phones, when your phone has an update, you get a red bubble or a notification, and you simply update it at your convenience. Well, the same thing can happen in Windows 10, even if it's a corporate managed device. And so as we go down the path of having users that are more that are used to self-service, this is something that you can provide, whether it's through Intune or SCCM or even some of the group policy pieces. So as you get into this state, it's likely going to head down this path, kind of down the road in the future, just given the consumerization of IT that's happened over the last 5 or 6 years, right? So something to think about as you go into Windows 10 if you want to implement this kind of from the get-go.